Hey darlings, welcome back to another doll clothes making session with your little lady from the Philippines, Shaja. For this two-part series, I'm gonna be showing you how I made this shirt for my doll hands. I specifically designed this shirt for this articulated Finnick doll from the Hunger Games series, but you can use this procedure for other dolls too, as long as your pattern fits them. Alright, without further ado, let's start the session. Here's pretty much the basic tools and materials I used in that navy blue shirt. The list is also in the description box. For you guys who have purchased my sewing pattern, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Don't forget to follow the instructions on your pattern page when you print your copy, okay? When tracing your pattern on a fabric, remember to add the seam allowance most comfortable to you. I use about 5 to 6 millimeters most of the time. That's like about 1/4 inch, I think. For this navy blue linen material, I'm using a watercolor pencil in silver as my fabric marker. As always, I apply my DIY anti-fray solution, which is just diluted white glue. You can use readily available solutions from your sewing material shop too. Spread around your seam allowance and try as much as possible to avoid your pen marks. Let the solution dry before cutting. Once dry, cut your fabrics with your seam allowance added. Also notice that I have marks here on my sleeve fabric patterns. They mark the back side. I don't want to swap sides because, yeah. Okay, let's start sewing. Right off the bat, though, I wanted to sincerely apologize for the choice of fabric I made here in this video, making it hard to see on screen the actual stitches. I chose this thick linen because I know it is not easy to find thin fabrics for our doll clothes, and this linen is the only thick fabric I have in Hans color palette. And I really wanted to show you, even with such heavy fabrics like this and the ones we like to reuse from our old clothing, that it can still be done, that your doll clothes will still look nice. So guys, thank you so much for your patience throughout this series. Okay, so we are moving on to hemming the sleeves. I'm marking here the back side of the sleeve fabric. Now we're going to join the shoulder seams next. And here it is. I'm just pressing here the shoulder seam allowance so that the next step will be easier to do. So now we are cutting slits along the neckline seam allowance. Remember to just cut halfway through, okay? We are also cutting slits along the arm size and the curves on the sleeve fabric pieces. Now for the collar, I'm just using a pair of pinking shears, but you can also just cut slits along the curves, just as I did with the other pieces. And here I'm just trimming the sharp corners to reduce bulk. I'm also cutting slits along the seam allowance that connects to the neckline. I'm pressing the seam allowance flat so it folds neatly, but you can flat iron it too. Up next, let's grab some pins and baste this collar piece to the neckline. Find the center of the collar piece, mark with a pin, and secure to the center of the neckline. Here I am remarking the center of my neckline with a pin. Secure the two pieces together, starting at the center of the neckline. This is how we're gonna fold later. Let's just continue pinning around the neckline until we get to the shoulder seam. Then we find the front panel center fold mark and fold the fabric so that the end of the seam allowance will join the collar at the neckline. That's the end of the collar there. And the front panel folds and ends at the shoulder seams. Let's continue to the other side. Again, let's fold. And here I'm just remarking the notch along the neckline where the collar ends. All right, woo! After a million pins, I think we're ready. But let me just reduce some erase watercolor pencil there. Now we are really ready to sew the actual neckline. All right, here he is. Now let's trim off that extra neckline seam allowance to reduce bulk. And then let's flip out that collar. Now I want to make the neckline seam sturdier, so I'm top stitching it. It also makes the seam allowance lay flatter. Then we also top stitch our shoulder seams for the same reasons. This also secures the edges of our front panel centerfold. Alright, let's grab our model for a quick fitting before we head on to the next video. Yep, I think it looks good already. So see you in the next video, darlings. Baboosh!